How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to do the review for this thing, the ANK MK38 Civilian. It's basically the same as the military version of the ANK. It's basically that that one can't have a sideboard, the military one only has a sideboard. Apart from that, I think they've got the same engines, the same everything you can equip, the custom MUDs, the same winches, same bumpers, same lights, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I've drove it around for the last couple of days, so we'll get stuck in. I kind of doing the review video gets me the most used to it. Engine and power wise, it's S+. It's always been pretty solid for that, to be honest, like the military version was. Gearbox high range all the way for me. Suspension wise, you've got the active stock, which is only locked because I've got the biggest tyres on, and then raised. With the military version, we've also got tuned custom, but to be honest, that then still makes it a little bit tippy. Tyre wise, it's got just about every version of tyre you sort of get as the standard options. The top tyres go up to 51 inches, which is pretty good. It's definitely around like the Tiger, the Dolphin, that sort of range. You get I think the Step Toe or Step 310, whatever it's called, gets about, I think it's at 43 or 47 inch tyres. So yeah, this has got decent enough size. That's what she said. I've gone for the custom MUDs just because I do quite like how wide they sit and all the rest of it. There's other characteristics to it I like. Got the strongest winch on. The spare tyre just goes on the back underneath, which you can catch on bumps sometimes. The snorkel, I've gone for the front facing one, but they all seem pretty tall. I noticed recently, like that van body add-on, if you look at the suspension, it still keeps it quite squidged down and low, which the van body used to pretty much weigh nothing, so I'll have to check further, but I think they might have actually added weight to that van body now. They clearly haven't changed the weight of the fuel thing though, that absolutely sticks it down on its dick. Yeah, adding just various things onto the truck, I think, was that when I just added the lights. Bumpers wise, to be honest, as you can see, I've gone for the top one. That one sits a bit lower. All the rest are actually not that bad. They all kind of sit pretty similar to the stock one. That one, it sticks out a little bit further, but I quite like the look of it. Those little squares on the front are lights as well. And just in general, it's got like a little bit of a slope on its chin, so you can kind of scuff off things a little bit. Oh no, this is the one with the lights. I think the top one was a sun visor, which I just didn't get because it just narrows your view out the window. Yeah, don't get the steps as well. You can add side steps, but there's no point. For the exhaust, I've gone for the stock one because it just leans out to the right, whereas all the other ones stick straight up and it's just going to be in your view. Tyres, I've got only one set of rims because I've got the custom MUDs. And then paint jobs wise, you got those black, grey and white, which they all look pretty good like that, but you get the camos in this one, again, the same as the military one. I like that sandy coloured one the most, but they're all pretty good, other than I'm not too keen on that one, but I've only painted it yellow for now, just because it kind of helps highlight, I don't know, what bits of the truck are colour-coded, etc. But I'll probably go for the sandy military colour at some point. Yeah, looks-wise, like I said, pretty similar, well, pretty much identical to the military version. The steering doesn't have one of those, like, it's a tiniest little bit where it puts the opposite lock before you steer the right way. In the cab you can see out the back window, at least it's got one. I could read exit or something written on the garage, so I can officially kind of see behind me. I quite like the mirrors. I can see the custom MUDs in the rear view mirror pretty decent. The garage on the back wall, I can kind of start to see the garage door, so I can definitely see enough behind me that I could see a trailer and so on. Yeah, that's the horn as well. Not too bad, to be honest. A little bit squeaky, but it's yeah, not as bad as some of the vehicles. At least it's got some oomph to it. The rev counter, it's kind of on. It's sitting behind my right hand basically. That's why I'm kind of just steering. Yeah, trying to keep my hands out of the way. It revs up. I believe it's about 2,600 RPM. Overall, again, S+ on the power. The power's always been pretty decent in the ANK military version. I just feel like in this phase they've again done a blanket, like it just feels like a flat spot. It's not kicking the power in the early end when you actually floor it. Feels like there's a bit too much of a delay. As for trailers though, at least you can have all the towable ones, which you could on the military version, but you can also now have, like, you've got the saddle low and the saddle high, so you can have all the, yes, the step deck, and you just all of the trailers basically. That's both of the trucks side by side, and as I said, pretty much you're talking like they're exact same chassis length, everything. I had a good look around. Yeah, it's just the military version is like only the sideboard, and this one has other things. It's a shame they haven't added the sideboard to this, but the reason they haven't is because it basically completely upstaged the point of the military version. I was reading in the comments, I think it was Justin Lynch said as well, that they've adjusted the weight with the military version so it doesn't tip as much these days. I drove it around a little bit earlier. I do agree that they've adjusted the military version so it doesn't tip as easily as it used to, but I don't know, just gut feeling so far, I think this one is even better for not tipping, which, to be fair, might partly be because I haven't got a sideboard sat on the back, but it doesn't tend to make a whole lot of difference for other trucks. Maybe it does for the military one because it's kind of the sideboard's just part of the actual truck. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I still think this one is better for not tipping. Going through that mud, it wasn't able to stay in high gear, but there's a possibility that could be related to the tyres. I do try the chained later on, but personally I like the look of these custom muds. They sit wider, they tend to have a bit of weight to them, so they kind of help you stay planted. But yeah, for certain situations I'd pick the chained, but I'm not sure. I don't think you get the good version of the chained on these. Like, no, you don't. The mud versions, you get like the off-road versions instead, so or all-terrain, whatever ones they are. So yeah, that's another reason if we actually got with the American trucks proper mud chains, it'd be pretty cool. As for killing that tree, I hit one tree and then got stuck on the next one, and I tried just for my own curiosity doing it yesterday or the day before, and I managed to smash through 2 trees. Then when I reversed up and had another go, I broke through both. Overall, I think this is pretty good for knocking trees over. I just must have got a little bit unlucky, got a bit bogged down in the mud, and again, maybe the custom muds just drag a bit. Definitely, that's one of the things with this truck, is if they just improve these custom muds. It's not even just specifically for this truck, but yeah, there's quite a few vehicles now that can have these muds, and they're just a little bit underwhelming. Yeah, driving over these rocks, you can see I'm picking up the odd 1 suspension damage. Nothing too crazy though, from the looks of the amount of suspension health I've got. It was never a problem for me all night, maybe with the exception of like flying off the cliff on White Valley, but yeah, to be fair, that does kind of add some pretty good wear and tear onto the suspension. Oh man, I'll tell you, I have to say as well, there's a few little things tonight, apologies for, where the glitches get me. I didn't realise it got me when I hit the anti-terrorist barricade. When I did though, it did the same thing it does with everything. I took some damage to like my suspension and whatnot, but it didn't tip me over and jackknife me. To be fair, it's, well, I suppose jackknifing is not really the right description, but yeah, it's a little bit hit and miss and look. See, there's a glitch. The only reason it's time-wise that I'm not going to go back on the game and re-get the footage, but there, it's just a normal drive in snow, and then when you get to near that barrier, it goes slow, so you have to get out of high range. That's about it. But yeah, it's just been a nightmare tonight with glitches. Climbing over barriers, though, it does very good. It sits quite tall. It's easily enough with a raised suspension. Like, even if they ever give us the option of tuned custom, I wouldn't bother with it. I don't think I even bother with it in my military version of the ANK either. Which, to be fair, I don't use a hell of a lot because of the tip-in. That was just the nightmare with it. I think when we all found the ANK, we all used it for like a week or so because it had plenty of power and pull and torque and all the rest of it. But yeah, we soon got used to the fact that it rolls a lot. Funnily enough, similar story with the Cairn Marshall. That's what I think a lot of us drove that and just realised pretty quickly that it's more hassle than it's worth. But this truck, I've been driving it for the last couple of days since we got the new phase, and yeah, I do generally like it. I don't think it's like absolutely knocking it out the park, but I wouldn't say it's far off. Like, it feels like a pretty enjoyable truck to drive. The biggest thing is, as I said, this overall low-end power delay that I'm not really liking it, but I've tried a lot of different trucks and it's sort of feeling the same across the board, so I'm not going to specifically hold it against just this thing, but the end result is it's making this a bit less fun than I know it could be. Yeah, went for the jump, it didn't go too well that time. It looked like it was about to go fine, and then last second just completely rolled it, blew my suspension to pieces and all sorts. Came for another attempt, That's what she said. Yeah, I kind of stubbed my bumper on all those pipes, so it bounced me off. But then the second time, I had a run up, still got into high gear pretty easily, and yeah, jumped the wall. To be fair, probably best off jumping a little bit slower instead of just going flat out high range speed. But it jumped over there pretty well. Going through the trees as well did pretty good. I believe now it's my snorkel that probably just got caught on a branch. It's stuff like that sticking out, and like, yeah, the snorkels that catch on stuff. There's just a good little look at the suspension kind of going the opposite ways. It climbed up that hill no problem. It did beach on the peak of the hill. A lot of trucks do. It's more a bit of a bonus for trucks that don't. But yeah, this one it does, but not to a crazy degree. There was ways if you had a run up at it, you can kind of scrape yourself over and all the rest of it. Cargo test in the yard, turning circles a little bit looser than some of them sort of clip those snowbanks next to the garage doors, but don't really go as wide. But nonetheless, it made it round and out the yard in one go, so it's nothing. The thing I've found with it, to be honest, every now and then it understeers, and again, I still need to probably, like, I'll put the chains on and have a go with them and stuff, but I just think generally it does understeer a little bit here and there. Nothing too crazy, but there's probably quite a good example coming up soon. Yeah, going through here though, from like the main road cutting across to the fuel station on Northport, it's actually maintaining its speed. It's not caught the trailer in the mud or anything like that. Possibly the custom muds help with that, as because they're quite wide, fat, chunky tyres, and I'm kind of carving some pretty wide lines as I'm driving along. The legs and those side rails of the trailers might just kind of be sitting on where I'm driving, so it's sort of got less to catch on. But either way, it didn't get stuck there or anything. There's even that root sticking out of the ground, and it didn't really get caught on that. So yeah, again, overall it's a pretty solid truck. Like I said, it's one of them where, yeah, I think they have basically, it's kind of like the ANK 2.0 but they've not let it have a sideboard on purpose, because otherwise, yeah, like I say, that one sort of becomes redundant. And I think as well, like with this new phase, and I don't necessarily mean this is a bad thing, but like when I did that mission yesterday with the trailer store, there was a little animation of it building the trailer store, but not all clicking together. It just suddenly went from not built to built. And then like this, it's a new truck, but it's basically the ANK. It's almost like a modded version, but then it's actually been added in the game. So there's little things where you can see they've cut corners instead of like making a full new truck. But I would say then on the other side of the coin, in their defence, it's kind of, for the most part, they've cut the right corners. Like, it's not a bad thing to have a version of the ANK that actually feels pretty good and fresh, and it's got, yeah, saddle high, saddle low. It was always something that was lacking from the military one, that we were all just like, you know, why are we forced to have a sideboard? Why can't we have saddle high, saddle low, etc.? But on top of that, I do think they've addressed and tweaked and upgraded like how much it tips and all the rest of it, so it just does feel like a updated, polished version of the ANK really. So yeah, overall it's like I said, it's kind of cutting corners, as in it's already a truck we've got, but it is a better version of it. I could definitely see me using this pretty happily through phase 6, whereas I don't know, I will drive the military version again, but like I said, I had a little go earlier and I still do think it's a little bit more tippy than this was. But I don't want to call it completely, because I flew around in it for 5 minutes, and then yeah, just that's kind of the conclusion I came to. Then I drove around in this doing the review all night and was kind of like, I think this was better for not tipping and possibly landing back on its wheels, but yeah, I might have just been getting a bit lucky. Interior view there, yeah, it's pretty good interior, to be honest. I quite like it. The window can be quite narrow though, that's why I didn't put that sun visor on, because it's the same thing with, what do I call it, Harold, the Ford something or other. Is it the Ford Clit? Yeah, the Ford Clit 9000. When you put a sun visor on that, it's like, it makes your window really narrow and you can't see up as well, so I didn't want to put the sun visor on. Going along here, you'll see now the understeer. It was partly me, I was a little bit delayed on steering, but not as much as it went wide. Like, that's why last second slam the brakes on kind of caught me out. But yeah, that's what I kind of noticed throughout the night as well. It was not just there. There's just, the steering is probably like a tiny little bit slack anyway, and it's not got the tightest of turning circles. But on top of that, I just noticed that, yeah, I do get a bit of understeer going. There's a little bit of a naff attempt from me going over that rock bridge. Overall, it got over there. I purposely floored it in high gear. I knew I was going to smack the edge of that rock and kind of damage my suspension and all the rest of it. If I was really going across there, I don't need to drop the hammer in high. I just kind of do it as part of the review, just to see what will happen, even though I roughly know. Going through snow, to be fair, it's not that it sucks, but it's really not great in snow. And it is partly down to these custom mods. Again, they're just underwhelming. But there's areas where they, I don't know, the characteristics of the tyres I prefer, as in, like I said, how wide they sit and all the rest of it. But, yeah, they're just, for custom mods, you'd expect them to be a little bit good. And I don't think they are. They're quite average. Other than, like, yeah, the characteristics of it, though, are quite handy. This is just driving on the way to the death mud section, but I quite liked it when I did the rally video. I went down this road, and as you can see, this truck's handling pretty nice, and I've drove quite a few things down here, and you can get a bit of a drift going, and if you can catch it at the right angle. Caught it there, just trying to get the back end to step out a bit more, but didn't go wide enough to clip the barriers. Yeah, it was quite a nice little drive, but it let me feel kind of how well balanced this truck is, as far as, like, I don't know what the weight distribution would be back to front. Oh yeah, you know, I won't do it in this video, but I'll have to balance on the wall. I don't do that in every video anyway. I jump the wall, but yeah, just when I was steering and that, then, like, in the icy section, it didn't feel like natural understeer, and it doesn't, like, when you're driving along, it's just, I think as you're bouncing up and down on the suspension, if you get the weight off the front a little bit, I think that's just when it quite quickly understeers. Cutting through this death mud section though, you can see this is as slow as it went. I mean, it's fast enough that I'd be like, sod it, I'm making progress. I'd certainly be flinging winches out to those trees if I was just on a mission or something, because, yeah, I'd just be too impatient. But it wasn't going like 0.1 mile an hour, and for the most part, I'd say it got through there. It did pretty well. The good thing is it does sit pretty high. With the bumper I've got on it, it just kind of like skids over the mud anyway, if it even got deep enough. And yeah, there's not really a lot under the chassis or anything to get caught as well, so it wasn't bad for that. Here, went for the nose test. I kind of, this is a good guess really. I thought that's probably about as much as I can push it, because the further you go down the hill, kind of the more severe the nose test gets. And again, the nose of it sits high, but it's not completely flush with the front tyres, so there's definitely like some overhang going on. As I was driving up here, I was like, aha, that's where one of my Zixes are. I just keep buying more of them now. I'm beyond the point of trying to find what I own and what map I've left it on, especially now we've got, yeah, like phase 6 and then all the original maps. There's too many maps to check, so yeah, well, there's one. There's a goddamn horse with a vehicle as well in the background. What a professional. He's already waiting for me. He knew what was on the way. Was that horn? Oh, there's someone driving past my house in a truck doing the horn. I thought then, I was like, what the hell, was that on this game or what? Yeah, rolling test. I apologise, I believe it glitched there, so I was a bit distracted by the truck driving past. All I did was 2 full rolls and landed back on my wheels, so I don't know, like, nearer the start of the night, I had a little play around with this truck, and I have for the last few days, and I've definitely rolled it and sat on my side. Tonight, I seem to have got pretty lucky for the most part, but it's not bad for getting back to its wheels. I wouldn't say it's, whereas the ANK of old used to, like, it was absolutely gagging to be laying on its side. That was like its default position. Yeah, this thing doesn't feel like that. It feels like its default position is on its wheels, and it'll roll onto its side, but it's not eager to do it. It's not trying to make it happen or whatever. Going round there though, you could see again with the understeer a little bit, I had to do a 3-point turn, which for a truck this size I don't normally have to do going round that corner. Climbing up here though, even with the custom muds, I squirreled a bit sharply over to the left, and then as I tried to correct it, it just kind of dug in and rolled. Happened with quite a few vehicles doing that, but again, kind of whether I got lucky or not. I'd say there is obviously a degree of luck, but by the time I get to the end of the review videos, the amount of times I've usually rolled trucks all throughout the night, I kind of know by the end. Like I said, there's only so often luck will get you by. If a truck's bad for rolling, it's just going to keep tipping and not landing on its wheels. This thing, most of the time, has got back to its wheels, so I can't really knock it for that. And yeah, eventually I had a straighter run the second time, so it was just like climbing straight up the hill, which it still did with the custom mud, so they've got enough grip to do that kind of stuff. Thought it was going to save me there, but yeah, last second it did flop over in the end, so sent in the loaf because he's a goddamn beast. As far as tipping this, I mean, this is like, the loaf can eat these for breakfast. Yeah, I did notice though, and it probably makes a difference with the custom muds on. I'm sure if you put the chain on, the fact that it'd be like a skinnier front wheel for a start would probably help, but it does drag along on its side a little bit before it tips. It's not as bad as like the Bandit or anything like that, or I have to say actually the Bandit when it first came out. I'm sure it was the Bandit I was using in the live stream the other week, and it was, yeah, pleasantly surprised. It felt a lot better than it used to, I think. So I'm not sure if they've patched it or if I was just having a good old night with it, but yeah, you can see there again, it's like it's taken, you know, 5 seconds or whatever before it even thinks about tipping. It kind of just wants to drag itself towards me on its side a little bit. So yeah, next up the quarry. I've got a goddamn horse behind me, but he's doing his thing, he's not holding anyone up. One nice thing about this truck, obviously if I was doing the ANK military version, I'd have to bring a ramped flatbed, and I hate bringing the ramped flatbed. I hate getting the ramped flatbed up the 2 quarry hills that I do. Yeah, as this has got a saddle though, I can stick the sideboard semi-trailer thing on, which, yeah, I definitely prefer. If I can. There's lots of situations where I prefer to have a sideboard on my truck instead of a saddle, and then I'm going to have the ramped flatbed because I now can't have the saddle trailers like this, but generally speaking, if I just had one mission to do and I've got 4 cargo or something to take, I'd definitely rather take this trailer if I can. I mean, driving through there though, it's a little bit slow, but certainly faster than quite a few vehicles have managed through there. But it didn't ever feel like it was going to get stuck or it was struggling. It's just one of them, you get reduced to a certain speed, you squeeze the throttle and just sort of wait for it to keep ploughing forward. But overall it was, yeah, still going, like I said, it's a pretty solid truck, I think. Definitely, I'd say as a ballpark, I wouldn't want to say yet if it's as good or better or anything. I don't think it'd be better, but sort of the Taiga, the Voronggrad sort of ballpark, those kind of trucks, which is, yeah, not bad trucks to kind of be in the same league as. Even going along here, it's not absolutely like going mad and wheels spinning like crazy. It's still pulling along better than a lot of vehicles. It was good. I've not been on this map for a while. It was good to see my trailer piles still stacking up everywhere, especially Northport. Looks like helping getting Santa ready for Christmas. Yeah, I was just driving up here. There's already a goddamn professional there. I brought a yellow loaf with me, but there's a red one just chilling here. So again, that's two out of 90 loafs I've found. Only 88 more to find. Like an Easter hunt all in one. Yeah, what you get with this trailer though, as you can see, it's either the legs or those side rails on the trailer are now digging in the like the bump of that first hill. I tried doing this, like if I drive backwards and forwards I can kind of create a bit more of a dip where the rails are going to drive through, like the grooves that my tyre leaves kind of like lowers the mud a little bit, but it wasn't quite enough. It's still catching. It's one of them really. If you could have a slightly taller saddle it probably wouldn't go amiss. But speaking of saddles, saddle up on the goddamn professional. And yeah, this basically, it's kind of, if you just sit on this bit, if you're ever in this section, it's probably only me that's ever going to need that little trick, but yeah, you can kind of wedge the loaf behind those rocks. And by the way, the footage glitched, so this is footage, the exact same thing happened, it's just the cargo is actually unpacked at the minute, but it makes no odds because I did it both ways. That's what she said. And yeah, it basically the loaf just, I've done it with plenty of other trucks as well, just pulls on it until the rails on the trailer kind of cut through the first brow of that hill, and then I'm good to go. As you can see as well, I've also got a blown tyre at the minute. I'd already been on some other adventures at this point. I can't, what was I'm still got the custom muds on. Oh yeah, I was bringing the trailer back to here. That's why I pack it now, but again, same thing when it was packed anyway. It's catching on the lip of the hill was the issue, not the truck power-wise could drag these concrete slabs up the hill. Yeah, so this is now back in order, the footage. That was it. So, as you can see, I've not got a burst tyre or anything anymore. Yeah, climbing up this hill. I sent in, I went and got Yellow Loaf, so he's already at the top chilling. But I like to give it a go on my own first. I could just fling a winch out now straight to the loaf. But, yeah, I wanted to see what was happening, so I'm kind of steering left and right, seeing if there's anywhere. Because every now and then, as you'll see happen, you get a little patch of grip like that where it's just enough. That's one thing I do like about this hill. For whatever spectrum they balance the trucks, this hill's a pretty good analogue for like which truck doesn't, I don't know, which truck is on the bad side of balancing and which is on the good side. Like the best trucks tend to be able to get up there. I don't mind once they get to here, they've just put an awkward rock sticking out and it's like your tyre or the trailer catches on it. If the truck can climb high enough by itself that you can reach a winch to these trees, I consider that a win. There is a few trucks, Bruce I think just drives over the top and all sorts. Some of the bigger, heavier trucks can, because they kind of have more of an effect on the trailer really. They've got more influence on it, whereas like just trucks this size, which is plenty of trucks in the game, yeah, again, like I said, I'm not really bothered about that. So the goddamn professional is in his little loaf hole ready, but it's one of the few trucks that didn't actually need a helping hand that time. You can see there though, like I'm trying to get the power going, I've put it into high and it's still stalling. It's just, yeah, the early end power delivery really is lacking at the minute, and it, I don't know, it doesn't feel good. I'm not enjoying it a whole lot. There's a jump, there's where I blew my tyre. That's how that happened then. And then basically, yeah, I went for another lap, and then I came back with chain tyres. Oh yeah, just had to save the old low. Well, saves himself. He's goddamn professional for a reason. Just had to check he still starts when he's on his side. Oh yeah, I can't remember which bit of footage it was in. I don't think I've left it in this video. Oh yeah, I was grabbing him with a crane earlier, and when I went to pick him up, oh no, it's before I picked him up, his engine just started on its own. That's how keen he was to be running, to be doing something. So yeah, this is now, I went back to Zimnegorsk, got some chain tyres, and then giving it a go in that. And it's a tough one to call. I get to this point where I near enough stop, but I'm now jiggling my steering left and right. It's fair to say that I found the grip quicker and got to the top of the hill quicker. I don't know, like I could have just got a bit luckier this time, but I can at least say, if you want to do a comparison between the custom muds and these chained, obviously identical setup, identical trailer, and yeah, the chain, sorry, got up the hill a little bit quicker, and I would say felt a little bit more convincing about how they got up the hill. Like the muds were definitely like, whoa, it's really on the edge. These felt like, once I got to that point, which quite a lot do, quite a lot get stuck permanently where this stops the first time on the hill. But yeah, quite quickly I steered the other way and it just dug in and carried on. And that's what I've always found with the chained, is grip-wise, stats-wise in the game, like, it is what it is. People have said about the stats and all the rest of it, but I almost feel like the chained of, if every other tyre is moulded as a completely smooth, like, drag tyre, I tend to find the chained, I imagine it like there is little notches on them. They're like, I don't know, yeah, tractor tyres, like they got big, where the chain dial has been programmed into the tyre, it's actually got little, yeah, flaps that dig onto like the edges of rocks and climb up and all sorts. But overall, pretty similar results. Both of them managed to get up to the hill. I used the trees just to winch over the top brow of it, but that's not really an issue. And then both times I jumped off the quarry and I didn't tip the truck over twice, so I was kind of fancying a bit of a loaf rescue at the minute. I had to edit out quite a lot. I'm not going to lie, I've done a hell of a lot of loaf rescues tonight. Probably about 20 on this vehicle, at least. So, yeah, I edited some out. See, still climbs up there like a beast. Jumps off here. I like jumping off it. You can see what happens with his weight. He stays pretty balanced now. He's definitely getting better at that. It's good for him. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a goddamn horse of a vehicle. Get yourself a loaf. That's what we've learned. We usually do end up learning that. See, it takes me longer to go through winch points. I've got to be honest, it was a lot easier than even I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh. It was a bit, yeah, anticlimactic. Yeah, going on to what's it called, Lake Hovd. Going across the ice. Overall, if you can go quick enough like there, you can see it didn't break the ice. I left the chain on at the minute just because, yeah, I'm on ice. The custom muds may help a little bit, but I don't know, you can see, generally speaking, if you maintain your speed and all the rest of it, it can get over. That time, a combination of us steering into it, the tyre that I was steering, like, punched through. Again, with the chain on, the front tyres are narrower, so maybe that could have had an effect. Thankfully, there's another vehicle. There's like another one of 400 off the list. Yeah, that I've left somewhere, so that was quite convenient. But yeah, there again I got over the ice, but you can tell it's close. I'm breaking the ice as I go, so it's definitely, you kind of get one chance. If you want to come back across the same patch, you've probably already smashed it up by then. Then I got stuck there. I crashed into myself with the twin steer and all so on, but I was trying to edit the video down, keep it a little bit more compact. I could easily end up going for like, yeah, 60 minutes. That's what I said. Going for the Jeff Special, to be fair, stuff does quite easily on that ice. It was a nice little crash there, I was quite happy with that. A lot of stuff doesn't Jeff Special though when it has the all-wheel drive permanently on and all the rest of it, but once I was going flat out, I think 8th out of 8th gear, and then stuck it in high range, yeah, it still did it, so it was pretty good. If you listen now, right, I'm floating. I'm revving it now. Every time you can hear that psh, like the air, not brakes, but whatever. Basically, when the wheels aren't touching anything, it's not. You can hear it. It's not letting me apply any revs. Then when the wheels touch the bank, it starts revving. So it's like they've done like a I don't know, or like a friction or a weight-based rev cap, where when there's no friction or force being applied to the wheels, it's not letting me apply any power, so it's like as you're bouncing along when you're driving, and that might be what's causing what I feel is like the low end lack of power introduction. Is, yeah, if your vehicle's bouncing along and it's like not got a lot of weight on the tyres, it's the game's just got some kind of rev cap going on. I don't know, it was weird, but I've flown into a lot of lakes and seas on this game in my time, and you can always hear the engine rev and everything, whereas when I jumped in then it wasn't revving, and as from what I could tell it wasn't even giving me any power to the wheels until I touched the bank, and then when it officially had something to push against that was applying resistance, it gave me power. But I don't like that. I want to be able to rev the engine and wheel spin in mid-air if I want to. Yeah, quick driving through the flooded foothills river, it got through there with no issues. Again, it's pretty solid truck as far as that goes. Climbing up here, still left the chain on for this. You see, normally if I had the muds on, I'd have to drive on that snow patch to the left of me, whereas the chain's just biting better, particularly on the rocks, which in this game is quite lacking overall. Rock grip on bare rock anyway. Yeah, so I climbed up there, no issues though. That all went pretty well. I did fly down the other side of the hill and tried to crash into the tree and kill it, but it was not happening. I bounced off it and rolled, so I'll spare the footage. It's only the bigger trucks like the Zix and the big monster stuff. The Collobs knock those trees down, but they're pretty, yeah. You have to get a special order Collob with a goddamn horse on the roof. Sorts them out. Jumping wise, it's got some good old speed. It's definitely, I think the best vehicle I've jumped off here now is officially has to be Fox's Roadrunner mod. That thing flew, I don't know, it was a good halfway to 2/3 across the water. Yeah, I went for a jump off there. Loaf decided to cut loose at the top, but thankfully the ANK realised what was going on, so it kind of bounced weird, rolled back to its wheels. Job's a good one. I did actually have another rescue, but it glitched, so thankfully I was able to pick from one of my many messing around. Loaf's like, sup dude? Just chilling. Yeah, as usual. See, the Loaf's laying down, listening on the ground for moles. Just checking, because moles are assholes, but fires up like a good one. Stick a winch on something, like a little tree that would pop out of the ground for anything else. See? Get yourself a Loaf. That's what we've learnt from this review. Never mind that ANK thing. Only if you've got the spare money afterwards, but definitely plenty of Loafs. Oh yeah, I remember someone saying the other week how many they had in the live stream. I can't remember how many they said they had now, but I've got 90 Loafs now, so the next bunch of 10 I have to buy, I'll be celebrating my 100th Loaf. Well, just on this playthrough anyway. I've probably got, I don't know, 150, 200 between all the playthroughs. Yeah, driving in the water, I mean, it's pretty good. The snorkel sits at a perfect place, really. It's behind the cab, so your cab can go in the water, and your snorkel is like the last thing sticking out. Really, it's pretty much the yeah. If I could pick where I'm going to put a snorkel on a truck, it would be there at the back of the cab. So it did pretty well. It can go about as deep as you want. That's what I said. Yeah, now I'm going back in for like a proper drowning test. And at this point I start taking damage, but it starts feeling now like I'm floating a little bit, because I'm not driving. You can clearly see I'm revving it as normal. Like if I was just planted on the seabed, I'd be driving quicker than I am now. And I was trying to look. I don't think I've got some bloody airmail in the air or something. Maybe some cargo floating up there. So that was why the camera was going funny. But it's definitely going deeper, because it's taking more damage each time. So yeah, but long story short, the back end definitely is floating. You can kind of see it starting to float now. I tried many things for many hours, messing around with loafs and this and cranes and in the sea and trying to cross the water and all sorts. Believe me, it floats. The back end definitely floats. The front end wants to. It doesn't always lift off the floor, but it's lifted so much of its weight off the front wheels that it's basically not touching the floor anyway. But yeah, in conclusion, honestly, definitely worth getting. It is a pretty decent truck. Like I said, it's the ANK 2.0, where it's just feels like a polished, updated, better version. Tipping wise is just the big thing, because that was always the problem with the ANK. Fuel wise, I'd say it's got a 200 litre fuel tank, so it's a relatively small fuel tank. You're going to have the same issues as you could or do, or I don't know, I don't so much with a Dolphin and that, but well, I suppose I do. I just take a loaf with you. It solves all your problems. Money wise, it's 75 grand, which is actually pretty cheap. That Forester, by the way, is an absolute bargain. It's like 38 grand. I actually think they were supposed to make it 138 grand, and they might have messed up, because that seems ridiculously cheap to me. Maybe that is what they intended, but I don't know. I'm not complaining anyway. I keep buying more of them instead of finding where I left the last one. There's a little description there. It basically says, long story short, it's a civilian version of the ANK, but it apparently has a bit more torque, which I don't know. If you go back to like old school OG ANK, everything felt a bit more powerful with a low end torque nerf feeling going on. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that statement, but I kind of do. I see what they're going with. Overall, it is a good truck, and I'd say yeah, it's worth getting. 114 grand fully upgraded is like Dolphin levels of cheap, really. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. This was just the last few bits of me messing around. Loaf comes flying in as usual. It was a pretty bad place to lock up, however. Some synchronised rolling going on. Still happy with getting that trailer floating in the air where it is. It was worth the effort. But you see, like I said, if you don't start, you ain't turning the key hard enough. That's all it is with a loaf. He gets himself out of all sorts of stuff. You just really cannot stop the loaf from doing what he's got to do. Stops when the job's done. Do you know what I noticed? That I left some of this footage in that was driving me mad. You know how you can pull the winch, but then the tyres won't drive, but if you let go of pulling the winch in, the tyres will drive, but now you're not pulling the winch in. I noticed when the trucks are laying on their side and you're pulling the winch in, the tyres are driving as well, so it's kind of stuck half and half with the characteristics. There's times when you're laying on your side where it'd be better if the tyres weren't turning, because yeah, as you see then when I was flipping the ANK, it was kind of driving the ANK forward instead of just letting me pull it over sideways. Again, Loaf, goddamn professional, like a little limpet, just like sticks to the seabed, the beach, and he's good to go. And of course, you send him in, he gets the job done. And this is with the van body thing on the back, because it looks like it added some weight on. I was just messing around with that as well, so I stuck this bit of footage in just to yeah, he can flip it all. This truck certainly wasn't ever going to worry the Loaf. Like I said, when they add like, well, I don't know, he's already flipped the like Arnie S100 and all sorts, so I think he's pretty good to go. Again, there's one last jump. I did a lot more jumps off here than made it into the video, but I have no no regrets. It was worth it. You see again with the Loaf, fires up like a good one. I just quick edit there because I was fixing the engine, and he's good to go. He's on his way again. There's a crane in the background that I was messing around. Long story short, crossing the river didn't go too well, and I just kind of got bored of trying in the end. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. as I said, overall definitely worth buying the truck. 75 grand's pretty cheap, 114 odd fully upgraded, it's well worth it. So yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you've enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's goddamn professional and he saves the day. And yeah, got one of these ANK civilian things as well. Professional.